Hi, I'm Kelly Green. I'm Alex.
I'm Chantal. And I'm Lavinia Gavari.
Okay, so the introduction to this panel, pretty much we're covering all the basics of cosplay, from how to decide what costume to do, how to make one, how to buy one, how to do wig, how to finish it to make it look fantastic, how to photo shoot, how to act at con, and lastly, how to market yourself afterwards. Because come on, who doesn't like some ego stroking, right? But I'm going to give the floor to Alex, and she's going to start off.
Okay, so obviously the first thing we're going to talk about is choosing a cosplay, because that's where everybody has to start somewhere. So when you're choosing something to cosplay, you want to make sure that the character's outfit is within your craftsmanship abilities, especially if you're making it. You don't want to do something that's too beyond your skill level, or it just won't turn out well, right? You got to start with the basics and then build your skill level. If you're going to buy a ready-made one or commission a costume, just make sure you know your measurements, and that any site that you're getting it from or any person you're getting it from, you know them, they're credible, they have reviews, you know people that bought from them, and just be very careful when you're getting China. Yeah, your costume may be altering afterwards, so leave time before your con or whatever event you're wearing it to leave time for alterations before the event, because you don't want your costume to arrive like 2 days before the con and then your jacket's totally ill-fitted and you need to fix it, but you don't have any time. So make sure you leave enough room for that. I say like at least a couple weeks, maybe a month. Then, yeah, I think that's it for me. So anything you guys want to add to that?
For people who are starters, DeviantArt.com, a great place for tutorials if you're looking for anything, and even the community itself. Like, I know a lot of you guys are in groups who go to all the conventions, Anime North, Fan Expo, MTAC, so just like ask amongst your friends if like you need help making a costume. Also, another great thing is when I first started, I'd buy too much material, and like I'd be like so wasteful, so I ended up finding people that I could trade stuff with. So that's like another thing you can do, is have like craft parties and make other stuff together. What else? Makeup. I think makeup is a big thing. I was a makeup artist in the film industry. I worked on Todd the Book of Pure Evil. I used to build props. And makeup is a big thing. I find that it pulls together a costume. So definitely look at tutorials, like practice, find a white type of skin you have, so like your makeup can last all day. With body paint, use alcohol, activate the makeup, so that way you can wear it throughout the day, and when it sweats off, it won't come off too much, like it'll still look great, especially under the armpits. And another great makeup to use is packs. That's Prosy and acrylic paint 50-50 mixed together, and you dab that on with a sponge, and you set it with Neutral Set Powder by Ben Nye, and that also lasts all day as well.
Scrambling! Just another point is don't restrict yourself to your same gender, but be aware of your body type. So if you're gonna do a character that's tall and thin, and you're not necessarily tall and thin, be sure to use proper undergarments, Spanx, or like I'm wearing full corset right now, or bodysuits for seamless underwear when you're wearing bodysuits for sure. Yeah, compression garments if you're a female doing a male character to hide the rack. Stockings for male cosplayers that are doing female characters. And even you can go as far as waxing or shaving your legs, guys. We really don't judge. We do not judge.
Not at all.
Yeah. And I've seen cosplay go as far as using form shapes, like for busts and hips and stuff, like to get a more feminine figure, because obviously women have curves and guys don't. So that's another thing. And gender bending is a great way to participate on a character if you're the opposite gender. And I wish I could manage that. So taking a character's core elements, crafting an outfit that's recognizable as the original character, but still has the, like, if you were a guy cosplaying Seiko as a guy, you would wear like a short purple wig, and the male uniform, but you'd still look like Sable. You could tell you're very similar. It's obvious. Yeah. So
So any other points on choosing a cosplay? Does anyone else have questions about choosing a cosplay? No, perfect. So let's move on. I know we touched a bit on designing and sewing costumes. How many of you here sew your own costumes? Cool. And how many of you are here because you like to buy your costume? Cool. Okay, so we'll get to both points in detail soon. So we're going to start off with designing and sewing costumes. Pretty much, I started off hand sewing all my costumes before I could afford a sewing machine, and they're really I wouldn't say one superior to the other. Machine is definitely faster and maybe a bit more durable, but hand sewing just as good for being good at it. I would always suggest for a beginner to pick something easy to sew. And for me, in my opinion, kimonos are one of the easiest things to sew. They're a bunch of overlaps. You can't get it wrong. And there are no curves that you have to deal with, so you cannot get that wrong. If you go to Fabricland or other fabric stores, you can buy things called patterns. I'm sure all of you know what that means, but for those who don't, they're pretty much templates and instructions on how to sew something. So they're hella useful if you really don't know how to make something. And they're also easy to modify. So if you find something that's kind of close to what you want, just buy it. They're like $4 anyways, and then modify it afterwards. Alter your silhouette or whatever. And as someone else had already mentioned, like DeviantArt, Cosplay.com, and YouTube are great places for resources and tutorials on how to sew different garments. And also good beginner fabrics, I always suggest cotton twill or any wovens that are non-stretch are probably easy to work with. Because stretch fabrics, some silks or certain things might be a bit more difficult to deal with if you don't have hands.
As for hand sewing, I do agree that having the sewing machine is so much easier, so much faster. But for pieces like this, definitely hand sew, because there's no way in hell that you can get that under a machine that's sewing the whole arm together. So basically, like I've hand sewn this piece here and some of the side pieces in my costume. And yeah, don't use a sewing machine for places like that.
Another category that was mentioned is altering. I'm like all about altering clothes, and like, cause I like, you really need to save money. I like to wear like 10 different costumes a year to different cons, so that gets like a little pricey. So definitely like go to like a thrift store, find something that looks similar to what you want, and just alter it.
They even have really good just for finding fabrics out there. Take something you cut and use it for something else.
Yeah, like even like curtains or like bed sheets, anything.
I don't think they'll say to you where to shop.
So yeah. We're going to move on to where to shop for not only fabrics but also for clothing, things to alter, as you mentioned, also costumes themselves. And I'm going to give you back to
Okay, so when orders online might look much different in person than they do on the website. Like actually the one I'm wearing right now turned out differently than it did flipping on the website. So once again, you got to be really careful when you're shopping online. You make sure you read the reviews and you know people that have bought from there, because otherwise you can get pretty screwed. And once again, leaving enough time for alterations is really key to that. A lot of places will also overprice things and claim their brand name when they're not. So be wary of that. That goes again the same thing. So when you're buying fabrics, you want to make sure that you know what the character's fabric looks like. Like you can tell if it's satiny or the weight or the shine of the fabric and factor that in. So you don't want to buy like cloth, but it's supposed to have like a silky lightness. And cloth is too heavy, which you guys can probably elaborate on that.
Yeah, definitely when you're shopping for fabrics and whatnot, make sure you envision what the costumes look like in real life and match the fabrics as close as possible to the character. And that's what I do.
Always bring like photos too, like good lighting photographs. I always have my cell phone on me with like all different like graphics photos, good graphic materials.
when you're sitting there doing nothing, just keep looking at the character from front, side, back, everything. Research.
Yeah, and so when you want pieces that are already, like, you don't want to make something from scratch, but you're not buying it online or something, you can go to thrift stores, definitely Salvation Army, and what's it called? The other one that everybody always shops at. Value Village, yeah. Definitely great places to find really cheap stuff that, you know, like, I made an entire Hobbit costume out of just stuff that I found. Yeah, Black Market as well. Everything there is $10. It's insane, but you find some really good stuff there. Walmart as well, big box stores are really great places to find cheap.
Giant tire.
Yeah, giant tire, like just base stuff that you can work off of, or you know, put a whole one together if it's a simple costume and you don't need to pay $50 for a t-shirt. And that makes a lot of sense.
My friend Sabrina says RV is really good for accessories, so props, or spaces. Also the dolls.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yes.
Just that was mentioned. And just one other thing I wanted to add, if you don't sew when you want to buy your costume, I recommend going to a commissioner instead of buying something off of them, okay? Find someone who's really good at sewing and building your costume. Depending on the, you know, how elaborate the costume is, it will probably be expensive. So just save your money. Like I have a couple of friends, my friends who reading here, I'm who's adorable. My friend Danny, who's just here somewhere. We're both like amazing seamstresses, and yeah, I tend to go to that.
Perfect. So, any questions about where to shop, or you guys have something to add to that, audience? Yes?
For fabric stores, of course there's fabric. Are there other stores you'd recommend? I mean, for fabric.
Hamilton actually has a whole street of fabric stores and fabric outlets. And street it's on, but it's downtown Hamilton and Queen Street. Everything. You can find every kind of fabric you're looking for there.
Also, Queen Street East in Toronto has a lot of fabric stores.
West.
Or, well, west. But, oh yeah, really, really far west though. Like, yeah, possibly. Yeah, they have big fabric stores there as well. They can get kind of pricey.
My personal favorites are Affordable Textiles and King Textiles. I find between those two stores, I pretty much find what kind of fabric I'm looking for. Like my wet look spandex here, double-sided, is from King Textiles. This is from Affordable Textiles. You're looking at spending about less than $10 a yard at most of those places. So they're good.
Also, can't take too far.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to move on to con etiquette. Now you've made your costume, feel awesome. How do you behave at a con? My first personal rule is you have to be having fun, because this is your hobby. This is not a job where you're a slave behind a desk and you're miserable. You need to have fun at a con. If you're not having fun, then you're doing it wrong. I'm sorry. So, with that being said, you can have your fun, just don't impede on the fun of others. That's about all I have to say before I move on to you guys over here.
If I could just bring something up here on etiquette, in terms of photographs, do not ask ever another cosplayer for a photograph if they're in the middle of A, trying to eat, or B, going to the bathroom, because that is just annoying as hell. And if they say no, totally disrespectful, please.
Yeah, definitely. If the person says no to a picture, don't take the picture. That's just common sense and courtesy. And once again, on photo shoots, don't do them in the middle of the hallway. Don't do them in the middle of the dealer's room or the artist alley. It's distracting. You're in the way, and it's really, really annoying. Everyone's trying to fit through. So go off to a separate area that there's low traffic or no traffic, and do your shoot there, and you're good. Yeah, also for con etiquette, glomping. It is never appropriate to glomp, ever.
It's happened. It kind of scared me. I'm tiny.
Another thing is, especially with cosplayers who like have weapons or anything like that can come off their costume, like always ask to touch it before like just running up and be like, oh my god, let me touch your sword. Like you gotta ask, because know, they put a lot of time and effort into making that, and sometimes it's not as durable as it looks. So be careful and just, you know, be polite about it.
Oh, this just occurred to me. I think this is very important. Slut shaming. Do not belittle or insult or harass another cosplayer because of how they're dressed, male or female. It's really not okay, and it needs to stop. Alright, thank you.
What's the example?
Very good. Slut shaming. Like for example, I'm pretty much wearing a bra. Some other girl might be looking at me all catty going, that's a bitch. Look at her, she's a slut. No wonder she's getting all these pictures. Look you. I did spend hours working on this costume. This wig took a week to custom dye. But anyways, that's not kind of like slut shaming. It's like, oh, if she gets done by dye, she gets done. That's what here. That's what it is, right? But that leads to what I was going to say. Cosplay isn't a pissing contest, but I feel like you need to instill that in any new cosplayer. It can get very competitive now with everyone with their own Facebook page and everyone's trying to like do the best this character or whatever. But down to it, at the end of the day, it is about having fun and enjoying yourself. So please don't feel discouraged if you see someone else in a better costume. Please don't be catty. If you have a better costume, just chill. Okay, we're all ridiculously costume at the end of the day, alright? So, yes.
Sorry, I just want to say I agree with you. As a new cosplayer, well, there are some things I can do to improve my costume, like, you know, get gloves and cut my sleeves off. But when I see another new cosplayer, I don't feel sad that someone has a better costume than me. I say, hey, another new cosplayer.
Yeah, that's the best attitude to have. Totally. And I know. Oh, sorry. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
If they have a bad costume and they're starting out and you're doing the same character and you're better and they're shiny at them, it's a really quick way to deter people from even bothering the process. Yeah. Like it's much better to have like a
And I think that the Canadian cosplay community is really lucky that we're all relatively supportive compared to maybe some other communities I've witnessed. So it's always a good thing. And don't be afraid also to ask more experienced cosplayers for help because we're all pretty nice people. If you ask us nicely, we'll just give you some advice.
That's exactly what we're here for right now.
And you have well, this isn't really con etiquette, but this is more like how to con-proof your costumes for con. So let's move on to that.
Okay, so I think that everybody should have a kit when they go to a con. Just a bag of some sort that contains the basic necessities to get you through a con in case. And honestly, this stuff is so like essential. Everybody needs it. So definitely have to have needle and thread with you because that's if your costume starts falling apart on you, it's obvious that you need something to fix with. Hot glue gun and glue sticks, definitely, especially if you have props or a part that is glued onto your costume armor or something like that, then it's a really quick fix. Don't use duct tape. Safety pins, for sure, another standard thing. A change of clothes, so if something goes horribly wrong or you're going somewhere after a con and you don't want to be in costume when you're at dinner with your friends or something, then it's good to have a change of clothes just to like, you know, so you're not stuck in a restaurant looking like this unless you want to be. So am I. But, I prefer to, especially because tonight's my birthday party and I don't want to be.
Happy birthday!
I don't want to be hanging around in my birthday suit. That sounded weird. Deodorant, essential. Apply deodorant more than once. You will smell. Con stench is totally preventable, okay? Totally preventable. If everybody just brought deodorant. Emergency makeup kit, and this applies to both guys and girls, especially if you're wearing makeup, but even if you're not, bring a basic, like, cover-up, maybe, foundation, maybe some eyeliner. Or mascara, the basics.
Lipstick.
Yeah, lipstick. Eyelash glue, yes, and nail glue as well. And a hairbrush or a comb, because especially with wigs like this, they get tangled. I have one in my bag downstairs that I will probably be using after this.
If you're wearing fake teeth.
Oh yeah. That as well for so anything. If you have fake teeth, then it would be decent for that. And bobby pins. Yeah, that's
double-sided tape,
Yes. Here.
and water. Oh, I said water.
Yeah, water, granola bars, roll-ups, all of that stuff. Bring it with you. Because con food's kind of expensive and really low grade.
Just be sure the con allows you to bring food in.
I think something interesting that I've been hearing more and more of lately is what are called cosplay medics. I hear about people who go to conventions armed with like toolkits and everything, like they're contractors at a construction site who walk around just repairing anyone's costume who comes along their way.
I've never heard of that. It sounds amazing and we need more. Oh my god.
I think they have it at A&M Northwestern.
Really?
Like they don't even charge. They just walk around. If anyone has a broken costume, they come to this person and they fix them
I
up.
found my call.
Well, y'all know that I get confused, so
You're gonna make a giant TARDIS toolbox.
No. No. No.
Oh my god, do it.
I'm telling you this girl would
Okay, another thing for con for your costume, it also starts before you go to the con. For me, I like to prep my wigs beforehand and spray them with silicone spray, and that basically prevents them from detangling as much at a con. So if you do have a really, really, really long wig, like me, I could have brought static spray to tame this beast. But anyways, if you have a really long wig, treat it with silicone spray, and that way when you thread during the day, it's not going to like tangle as much and like get those annoying ratty knots that are really hard to get rid of. I would also recommend bringing your own iron or your own steamer to the convention, because I personally do not trust the ones that come with hotels. I just don't. So if I have silks or something delicate that needs steaming or ironing, I just bring my own. I'd rather know that it's going to be reliable. So if you have space in a suitcase, bring something like that. You guys want to say that?
just to add on to that, hotels, do not leave your cosplay stuff like lying in a pile in your suitcase. Take the costumes out to hang them. Because they usually have hangers in their closet, so take your costumes out, hang them out. Try it and see if you can get your hands on styrofoam weekends, bring like one or two of your wigs. Like don't throw things around and be messy. It's not good.
Good? Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so let's move. We're going to move on now to finishing techniques. How to give your costumes that extra polish to make it stand apart from the rest of them. For me, when I sew, I always press my seams. I find that gives everything, it helps it all lay flat. You should also do the notching. So if you buy patches and they have like triangle seams at the end of your sleeves, yeah, cut those in because then it'll help the seam lie flat or more flush against your body. Iron your costume at all times, that like before you leave and then after in the hotel room. I also buy a mini iron, so it's like something with like a 1-inch head, so that's good for ironing out little tinier areas that are maybe hard to get with a dry iron. That's finishing. Oh yeah.
Yes, I do. Right here. Okay, so yeah, finishing is definitely the most important part of cosplay, I think, because it's the difference between a mediocre cosplay and a really awesome cosplay. And it's really about the attention to detail, things like makeup, contact lenses, prosthetics like ears or teeth or whatever, nails, false eyelashes, jewelry, accessories, just anything that really puts a nice finishing touch on your cosplay and really completes it and makes it look full. Yeah.
Do you want to go on to makeup then?
Oh, no, one more thing. Yeah, so my biggest pet peeve is seeing people's real hair sticking out from under their wigs. So please put your wigs on properly. Wig caps. Like, I don't care if you're a guy, I don't care if your head is shaved. Wig cap. And yeah, just take the time to put it on right. Like, it's really not that hard. And yeah, just, style it, make sure it looks nice, because I really hate to see messy wigs all over the place. And of course, it's really long and gets tangled, but we have a solution for that. Yeah, so that's it. And unless it's supposed to be messy, yes, then in case break the hairspray, go nuts. Don't use good hairspray. Use crappy stuff. You're not supposed to use on real hair because it will damage your real hair, but it will work perfectly on a wig. Yeah, I said that already. Okay. Oh, tattoos and piercings. If you have tattoos and piercings, try to hide them. If they're not not part of your cosplay. I took my facial ones out, but I had to leave the earrings in for obvious reasons. But you know, I try my best to cover up any tattoos or whatever I have. If I'm wearing a cosplay that I'm able to do that with. Unless, of course, your character has tattoos or piercings, in which case, go nuts. Just make sure they're accurate. And you can buy fake body jewelry at like Ardennes or at Halloween stores. They have like a little bit once it's on or something. Yeah, that's it. Finishing.
Now we're going to move on to makeup, and makeup starts with, I believe, good skin care, like moisturizing and exfoliating. I'm a big fan of exfoliating. So you always want to start with a good base, and so always keep your skin moisturized. Exfoliate maybe 2 to 3 times a week. If your skin can take it, your irritating skin, then I guess you have good skin regimen. But I don't really want to take the floor away from Alex. We've got these great notes here. So, sorry, Sylvia. Back to you.
Yeah, so if you're a female cosplaying as a male character, don't wear eyeliner. Regardless if you're a woman or not, it ruins the illusion, and it just looks wrong. Unless, of course, you're cosplaying like Elle or something. He has heavy eyeliner physically, so, or he just has black eyes. So don't wear eyeliner because it just looks too feminine if you cosplay a man. So yeah, once again, try to accentuate your bust and your waistline and hips as much as possible if you're a guy. Pay attention to the male form if you're a girl. So broad shoulders, square hips, more contoured jaw and cheekbones, really essential when you're doing your makeup for a guy. And yes, ladies, you will need to wear makeup if you're cosplaying a guy. And making your eyebrows thicker and your lips paler. So, yeah, don't be afraid of girl. And that's it. I'm sure you have something to say.
So another thing, especially for summer conventions, definitely wear sunscreen. Because like you go outside during the day and you're gonna get like your skin's gonna be red and your makeup's not gonna match with your touch-ups. It's just gonna look terrible. So wear sunscreen, moisturizer. What else can I say? Once again, find out way before the con what type of skin type you have and what kind of makeup you are able to wear. So always do tests. Like I found out I was allergic to a product after wearing it for 6 hours and I ended up in the hospital. So like always do tests. What else? It was PAX. So I used PAX on myself. I was dressed up as Ayla Secura from Star Wars, and that put me in the hospital. So do a lot of research too on stuff, and yeah.
Okay, I think did we cover false eyelashes? We mentioned it. I'm just going to reiterate, false eyelashes change the way I look to cosplay. So if you're not naturally blessed with gorgeous long eyelashes, I suggest getting a pair of false. It really makes the eyes pop. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
My question for the cosplayers in regards to makeup. I cosplay with makeup sometimes, like I'm cyber or I'm like effects. What would you recommend to prevent stuff from destroying the makeup?
A powder sealant. Yeah, a clear powder that goes on top of everything else, and it just will set everything and make sure it stays. But you might have to reapply if you're looking really sweaty.
Yep. I did a full body makeup when I did a dark elf costume, and because the makeup does block my pores, it did make me overheat and sweat a bit. So what I did was I had my powder on hand with a puff, and what I would do is I would just reapply the translucent powder throughout the day just to wick off any sweat so that I didn't need something else to add.
In like regards, so if like your body paint is like red, blue, yellow, the best thing for you to use instead of like powder, like you can use the neutral set like I said, that's a neutral colored powder. Another thing could be like for your face, especially just don't touch it, is eyeshadow. That'll also like make your skin like the color more luminant and it'll pretty much like dry it up and you will sweat as well.
Props?
Yeah.
I was trying to see props. Try to make your props out of durable items, and I mean, if you don't cry later on if it breaks the con. There are tons of expensive and cheap materials you can use that will all make really durable props. Like if you want to use cardboard, just use a lot of layers of glue to harden it, and it will be durable. If you want to use something like Wonderflex or Morbla, then those are going to cost you upwards of around maybe $100, but they're pretty much thermal plastic, so they're as durable as it gets when it comes to making materials. Yeah.
If you're using Wonderflex, because it heats up with heat, make sure you gesso it or upon before heating, because it will melt in the sun. And it will fall apart.
Craft foam is also your best friend in the case of props. It's not that, well, the thin stuff from the Michaels is not that durable, but if you coat it and seal it and do it properly, it's fairly sturdy. Yeah, Curry's is cheaper for that stuff too. And you can get the thick foam board sheets from, where is it?
The dollar store.
Yeah, the dollar store has them.
Yeah. Those are pretty much foam that are sandwiched between two layers of like crystal board, and they're rigid.
You have to sand that. Wear a mask when you sand that stuff. It's bad. But it works very well.
Go ahead.
Okay, so hygiene is extremely important when you're cosplay, because our stench is nasty. Once again, it's preventable. It's the unwritten rule that if the con's more than 1 day long, you should take at least 1 shower for a 2-day con, or 2 showers for a 4-day con, or 2 showers for a 3-day con. Always shower the night before the con. Bring deodorant. Oh my god, seriously. Yeah, so
Actually, something about deodorant and things and sweat in general. If you go to Shoppers Drug Mart or like any drugstore, in the fashion tape section, you get like the upside tape for your skin. There's also things called like armpit guards. You should put those on your costume because it will protect the fabric and from like sweat stains. Because over time, sweat stains do damaging the yellow fabric over time. You don't really want that to happen to your precious costume. So I mean, totally invest in some of those. They're not that expensive. Of course, something that you really like. Yeah. Kayla, yes. Pretty much anything that you can stick on, they'll absorb the sweat. Keep your costume protected. Okay, so to wrap up, before we move on to things to do after the costume, do's and don'ts. Want to go and rush through that?
okay, so here's some basic do's and don'ts. Do choose a character that you love. Don't choose a costume that's too difficult for your skill level. Yeah, know about your character, know who they are, what they do, and don't choose something that you have no idea where it's from just because like your boyfriend or your girlfriend's cosplaying it or it's popular or something. Like, make sure you know what you're doing. Choose a character without limiting yourself to gender, race, or size, but choose a character don't choose a character that looks absolutely nothing like you, because that never really turns out right. Do use finishing techniques to complete your cosplay. Don't apply these techniques sloppily. Once again, with the wig's biggest pet peeve ever. Do bring an emergency kit with you. Don't forget about things like proper footwear, costume size, weapons, rules, costume weight and thickness, and hygiene. And finally, don't forget to have fun, because that's what you're here for, right? Once your hard work pays off and you look amazing, enjoy the con, take lots of pictures, and it's a masquerade, do a photo shoot, and have fun in your cosplay.
Oh, and just something I remember very quickly for the ladies, or anyone wearing really, really high-heeled shoes that hurt, you can get insoles that will help ease the pain, make your body more comfortable, especially if you wear them for like 10 hours straight. So that I just remembered I wear them now, so there's a good tip for you guys.
Insoles are great. Also, if you have new shoes, wear them around the house and break them in. It'll make the con experience more fun, so you're not miserable after that.
Don't feel bad if you bring flats with you and you have to change, because I bring flats with me all the time if I'm wearing high heels. And definitely those fast ones that fold up in your purse are perfect for that kind of thing. You good?
No, we're gonna go into the next section.
unless we're gonna move on to photo shoots and marketing. So do people have anything to add that's not related?
Well, yeah, I'll add something else.
People who like come out of town and like stay in hotel rooms during cons and stuff. Just like when you go out at night, especially for girls, just make sure you guys are in groups and stuff and keep in contact, especially throughout cons. Know everyone's number, have an emergency meeting spot in case people get lost or you want to meet up for lunch and you're wasting time trying to find each other.
Your cell phone is charged.
Yeah, make sure your cell phone is charged and have your charger on you just in case.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to photo shoots, posing. These are just going to be general quick tips. Normally I do like a full 1-hour panel on this, but this is kind of a short, brief version of it. So my main points are study yourself in the mirror. You're going to feel like a narcissistic jerk by doing so, but get used to it. The more you know yourself, the more you know how you look good, the more you can translate that to the camera. Number 2, kind of related, know your angles. So do you look better on this side, or do you look better on this side, or do you look better front top? I don't know, maybe you look good front top unless you're really stuck, in which case I hate you. Know body language. Know how to emote just through the way your posture is, or the way your arm is, or the way you rest something on something. Because in cosplay photos, you can't talk, right? It's silent. You're pretty much communicating a message or emotion or something through your photos. So study body language. I learned all my posing from America's Next Top Model.
Oh, yeah.
So, they're all on YouTube still, I think, or you can go watch a few episodes, and I seriously, like, after a few episodes, you pick up some really, really, really good tips, especially on thinking of how to pose on your feet. Like, instead of, like, let's say your character has 2 lead poses, and then that's 2 photos, but your photographer is, like, shooting, like, 1,000,000 photos of you. What else are you gonna do? Just stand there like this? No. You're gonna move around, you're gonna try different angles, maybe, like, get on the floor or something. Just experiment with that. Number 5, in terms of booking photographers, contact photographers that you like ahead of time. Like, they may not have their schedule up, but a lot of them are thinking about their convention schedule for like the next con or something. So, especially with a lot of the more popular cosplay photographers, you definitely do want to get a jump on knowing maybe when they're going to schedule a shoot, or if they can maybe give you a heads up if they're going to do that. There are photographers who do paid shoots and ones who do free shoots. I mean, I personally don't have much of a preference either or. I do find though that if you're gonna charge me money, photos that better be really fantastic, and most times they are. Because I've checked their portfolio to make sure they are. You're worth the $50 of my time. So let's see. Also, working with the same photographer. I tend to work with a variety of photographers, but I find that I work with so many repeatedly that we do have this relationship that's been built up. They know what I like, they know how I like to look, and I know how they tend to shoot. So they don't have to tell me to change pose. I know after 3 actuations, I change. I do something else. It's kind of like telepathy during a photo shoot. You just know what they want to do.
So yeah, have a variety of poses. Make sure that it takes no longer than like a couple seconds to get into each pose, because you don't want to be like moving everything around and getting all crazy and taking up the photographer's time when he's not shooting you. Make sure, like, just because your character might pose a certain way in an anime doesn't mean that it's actually physically possible to do that in real life. Especially like with Seiko, like she does these insane sword things, and I don't have the body proportions. Yeah, like I'd have to be pretty much fly to do that. So once again, yeah, take the time to look in the mirror and make your own poses that are complementary to you, and not necessarily exactly like the character poses on the cover of the manga or in an anime or something.
When you're working with your photographers and you have certain poses that your character does, like make sure you study them and then show them to your photographer to make sure they know what you want out of it.
And if there's like anything that you're uncomfortable with and the photographer suggests, don't be afraid to say no and don't want to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Another thing, very important, when you direct your photographer gives you direction, take it. Learning how to take direction is an important part of getting a successful photo taken. Because if you're standing there like this, and your photographer's saying, do like this, and you just stand there like that, like, oh, I just want to stand. No. Okay, your photos are going to turn out horrible. So, please trust them to make you look good, and trust what these guys can do.
Unless they're asking you to do something really freaky and wrong.
Yeah, that too.
Alright, so, sorry, you had a question on it?
I've been watching this panel going on. What's your say on exercise and fitness? Because in a cosplay scene, body image is everything.
That's true. I mean, we are in a very aesthetically visual-driven hobby. Now, I want everyone to be healthy. Okay, whether that means you're stick thin or big fat or whatever. I mean, your personal fitness is your own. It's your own issue, really. And with cosplay, if you're comfortable with yourself, then who's to tell you that you have to do 10 pounds or anything like that character, right? So it really depends on yourself personally. I mean, everything you do. For myself, I like to be healthy. I like to be skinny. I like to use some pictures. So you guys are going to be
Well, I think everyone should be, I agree with Vicky, everyone should be healthy, but for me personally, I think exercise and fitness is very important. Especially if you're trying to pull off a character who is very physically fit, go to the gym. It helps. I'm not talking about running for hours on the treadmill. Just, go try and work with a personal trainer at least for a couple of sessions to get yourself into like a program that works for you. And eat well. Don't starve yourself. That's a stupid idea. And drink a lot of this. It's good for you.
Yeah, once again, just nobody wants to body shame anyone. We all want everybody to feel accepted when they're cosplaying. Just make sure that if you're not a twig and you're cosplaying something that's a twig, do it well. Don't necessarily have a tube top and an exposed tummy if you're not exactly toned there. That's not complimentary to you. You want your cosplay to complement your body, and you want to look good in it. And sometimes body shapes don't fit with that.
Everyone's gonna hate me, but I just have fast metabolism. But there are things like anime that there's some characters that have huge boobs, and I really like those characters, but I don't have that. So there are amazing workouts to build up your boob muscle. And that's a lot of crunches from the tummy and actually builds it up further, and then push-ups and anything working your arm area and going like that, yeah, that works.
And also, don't be afraid to alter your costume. You don't have to be 1,000% accurate. No one's gonna be like, oh my god, your cleavage isn't showing as much as Major Matogo's. For me personally, I want to dress up as Black Cat for fans for this year, but I don't have big knockers, so I'm gonna I don't really care, so I'm just gonna zip it up more. I don't really think that's gonna be a big problem. And also, if you're a little bit on the bigger side, maybe don't wear the belly shirt. Just alter it to make it flattering to your body, because you want to look good in this costume at the end of the day.
We're not saying you can't cosplay a character you love because you don't have their body type. It's just make sure that you alter it to fit your body well. And if you need to cover up a bit more, cover up a bit more. There's really no shame in it.
And just really quickly for the small-chested ladies, if you're cosplaying a busty character, Victoria's Secret has the greatest push-up bras ever. And don't be afraid to pad if it's for cosplay. Pass the shit.
But if it's a very revealing your modesty, they also have the stick-on boobs that work amazing.
I want to take it a step further. You can buy prosthetic boobs that are this big and then blend it with your skin. But I've only seen one person actually do that because she did it really well. I've only seen a Cosplay costume. I've only seen one person do that, and it's male. So if I had the money, yeah. Okay, so let's move on then. Last thing, I just want to finish off with photo shoots. It is all about networking as well. Make sure you leave a good impression with your photographer. I don't care if you don't want the photos at the end, you do not be rude. Okay, you're always polite, you always thank them at the end, thank them for the photos. Maybe post up at least one photo to your photos so you don't feel like they wasted their time on you. It's a relationship building thing. You never want someone to talk badly about you in this industry, I guess. Okay, and now with 15 minutes to go,
minutes for open questions on anything cosplay related. We're going to move on to cosplay marketing and how to get your work out there. So now that the con's over, now that you've worked with photographers, you have these pictures, what are you going to do with them? Obvious things to do is to put it on an online portfolio such as DeviantArt, Cosplay.com, American Cosplay Paradise. There's a million other ones out there. I'm not going to list them all for you right now. I just wanted to do these three main ones here. So DeviantArt. DeviantArt has different groups that you can submit and tag your photos in, and that gives you more exposure for it. They also have certain groups that will feature your work if they like it, and it may actually get into a magazine. So for example, if you join the Cosplay Gen group, and you submit your photos to the Cosplay Gen submission folder like they do every few months or so, and your photo gets accepted, guess what? You're going to get published in Cosplay Gen. Cosplay.com used to have collaborations with corporations, so if you want to do more like corporate cosplay and get into that kind of exposure, they might be good there, but I personally don't use Cosplay. Do you guys? No? Yeah, I don't really bother with Cosplay.com. American Cosplay Paradise, though, is another big one that I think we should all do, and I mean, we're not American, but plenty of Canadians are on there anyways. So what they do is they have weekly, well, they have theme contests. So like the best Axis Italia cosplay contest or the best Dragon Ball contest. If you win this contest, you get prizes. So that's another thing with cosplay, you win shit. So why not, right? So like that's a good thing about ACP is having an account there for fun contests or whatever. Facebook is another thing that a lot of people are getting into now, is making their own Facebook fan pages. Earlier last year, I believe, there was a giant purge of cosplay from Facebook. So if you had an actual personal account and if your name was like Vicky Cosplay, then your account was deleted, deactivated, and jumped to get back. But a lot of people are now opening up fan pages. So people can be your fans. You don't have to be their real friends, and it's good safety-wise if you don't really want to reveal yourself personally, but you just want people to appreciate that cosplay side of you. And people can contact you through Facebook that just act as your own personal website there. And I know Chantal has a lot to say.
Yeah, I network myself like crazy. I suggest getting on every site possible, make sure on every site possible. Tweet, that's a big thing. That's like the biggest popular thing with getting yourself out there. People want to know what you're doing in your life. Yeah, they want to know you're making a sandwich. Also with like Facebook, definitely like you can not only show like your new photo set, they like see in progress pictures and knowing what you're doing and how you do it, and that also gets you more hits. And with DeviantArt, if you post it and it actually gets a lot of hits and you're posting on groups and whatnot, it can be on like the first or second page of Google, so when that cosplay is searched, they'll see your picture.
Yeah, YouTube videos, tutorials for makeup, if you're like really good at that, or like styling wigs. I've even seen like these like 10 questions, like if you're in a current cosplay, you just like videotape yourself and then like you answer 10 questions for the last cosplay you did. And you tag all your friends in it. Yeah, magazines, there's a lot of them popping up. There's also on Facebook a page called Otaku House, and they hold like an idol contest every year. I've been seeing so many pictures pop up from that, and that gets you like a lot of, yeah, it's like every month you get a lot of hits from that as well. Any questions about marketing specifically? No? Great. So we have 10 minutes left at the end of this panel. I'm just going to open the floor up. You can ask us anything you want about cosplay related that maybe we didn't cover, maybe we did cover. So yeah, anyone have questions? Yeah, Rail?
Alright. Oh shoot, I took it from so that because I'm going to record this answer. Record! Okay, my question is, I plan to do a bikini cosplay. What would you recommend to do for the shoulder pads, the vest, and the scalp?
So you're looking for like the armored
Yes.
Pieces, something, what's your budget like?
Probably $100.
Okay, well, I mean, I've seen a lot of people do it with craft foam, you just keep it rigid, and then maybe back that with upholstery foam. So if you go to Fabric Land, you're gonna go to the upholstery section, they have these foam things, that's the stuff that makes your sofa squishy. So if you said sofa on the salad board, you can totally sell it there too. Those things they are heat formable as well. So what you do is you cut out that foam piece into like the shape of, let's say, shoulder pads, and then you apply some heat just to bend it a bit to go around shape your shoulder, and then you maybe just cover that in fabric, shave it down obviously to taper it out. Cover that in fabric, and then you've got your shoulder pads for the gym. And you can kind of do that with the chest as well. You can use batting, like quilting batting, to give it some more body or make it more rigid. But yeah, that's the starting point. You guys gonna add?
If you're going to work with cardboard, it can be really good or really bad. Cardboard is something that you might need a little more experience in using, just because it can be a real mess. But I really only use cardboard for making it more structured underneath foam or something like that. Just to, so cut out like the basic shape and then put foam on top of it just to make it more rigid. But don't use it like on the outer part because it's not really, it doesn't finish well. And you can't put it on it. Yeah.
A good thing for making structure is making a coat hanger skeleton. So yeah, you can definitely use that for the shoulder piece as well. Fold it around your neck so that it fits perfectly, and then the shoulder.
I guess if you do it well, you can also paper mache a base that's pretty sturdy.
Any other questions?
Sorry, just that cardboard's also free at Michael's. I pick up loads of it all the time and just go and be like, hey, you have some extra cardboard? Oh yeah, here's a whole bin. Okay, here's on the front door. Yeah, food basics. Yeah, lots of grocery stores. They'll just let you take it for free because they've got nothing to do with it except put it in the garbage.
Any other questions? Sorry, I know you have more. There are plenty of places that I know of in around Toronto. It really depends on your costume. Do you have an idea of the costume you're wearing right now, maybe? Just in general, a park is a good place to go because it's public. You're not going to get kicked out for doing a shoot there. Actually, well, it depends on the park. Check for some parks are more of the wedding type parks, and they do kind of make money off that, so don't go there. Osgood's Hall at, I'm just here in Toronto, right? Oh no? Well, if you're in Toronto, Osgood Station, Osgood Hall, which is the legal hall, what it's called is law. I don't know. What they do? Judge. I don't know. It's called Osgood Hall. It's free to shoot there, and it's got gorgeous, gold wall architecture. So, yeah, University of Toronto is good too. Sometimes they might kick you out, but if you pretend to be a student and clueless, then they tend to leave you alone. Yeah, good tip. Yeah, university has good modern and old architecture. What you said, you didn't hear that.
Also, if you're a photographer as professional enough, you can actually ask to get into certain places. I had a photo shoot in the northern one. It's fun.
So you want to make it look like metal? Okay, but you're not working with metal. Okay, so anything.
I would use the chrome spray paint, and then you need to weather it. The weathering is the key to making something look like actual metal.
Once you work with crackle, you can use crackle material as long as you seal it properly, and then when you paint it, use a chrome spray or I have chrome just regular acrylic paint. But it's the weathering that really makes it stand out. And look at real metal objects. Look at shields that have been weathered, and look at where the weathering is, the edges, the corners, and stuff. And just make quick highlight there. And dirty it up in crevices and stuff. And that'll really make it look more authentic, less right out of the box, brand new, never seen that all kind of thing.
take either silver or bronze acrylic paint, and you take just a small paintbrush, you dip it in the paint, and you put it in this thing, you brush it against like so people will not get the paint off, and you just sort of very roughly brush it against whatever it comes into that color. It's used a lot like in prop painting. That sort of helps give that old metallic look.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. One more question, no, now we can wrap up and you can all go. Yes.
Alright, that costume. What's your recommendation on that costume?
What's your makeup and costume?
Because this is cosplay 101, I wouldn't recommend doing a mech costume if you're not that seasoned with making, especially with making armor across, like, a mech suit's a huge thing to take on, right?
I actually, when last year at Fan Expo, I saw a girl dressed as a transformer, but all of her armor was stone, and it looked like soft and squishy, but she did an amazing job. So if you want to do something like that, I would recommend doing awesome.
Just watch lots and lots of tutorials and practice before you make the final product. Make a little, like, mini version or something.
Actually, look up a technique called Kapakura, which is getting a 3D model, which is, like, if you're going to do a Master Chief costume, it's actually going to lay out flat how each geometric shape folds kind of like origami to make that shape. And there's a Kapakura that can translate that for you from a 3D model. So what you do is you print that out. It's kind of like, it's going to be like using point lines in order to tell you how to fold it onto, you're going to print that onto paper, and then you're probably going to layer that onto cardstock, and then maybe layer on 10 tons of like resin and fiberglass and bond on top of it to harden it to make something a stormtrooper or a Master Chief costume. So look that up. It is an advanced thing to do. It's not something I would recommend for anyone to do. Unless you're naturally good at geometry.
I mean, if you don't have a budget, something that does cost a lot, but you can actually get 3D painting. So you can just print out your armor, and it's done for you. You just have to paint it.
Where do you go for that?
You know, I'm not really sure. I mean, I know people who do it, so I mean, I'm sure you can find it. Post Adam.
Yeah, post an Adam PGG on any social networking site. Probably find something
Great. So I mean, that's all the time that we have now. Thank you very much for coming. Once again, thank you, Bunny Angel. I do have a table up in my upstairs area, so please stop on my booth if you want to talk more. I'd love to chat more with you guys. And you can all say goodbyes.
Yeah, I'm Kelly. I'm going to be around all afternoon, so feel free to come up. I have a little offer sometimes. Yeah, you can come up and talk if you want.
Yeah, I'm Alex. I have to leave for my birthday party in an hour, but I'll be here until, well, I have till 5, so I got 2 hours. So yeah, come say hi and chat, and we'll chill.
And